So I'm Michelle Contreras, and today we have with us.
I'm Letitia Lucius. I'm a single ventricle CHD patient.
Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about our experiences so far in this project. So I guess we'll just start at the beginning, and as we've gone through about a year now, so what have you learned in this project so far?
So much. The main thing I learned is that people are interested in CHD research because I know as a patient and as an adult patient especially, it's very needed and we kind of feel like it's just forgotten about. But I've learned that there are doctors and professionals out there that want to get involved and get us involved and do things like this. And I've learned a lot about just the public health process. So I'm actually a public health major at Baylor right now. So just a lot of the things I've been learning in my classes were just used in this project. And I think that's really cool. Just with all the modules and everything we were learning, I think that's really nice. And just how we can include people in care and just how a proper doctor patient relationship should look like is the main things I've learned.
Yeah, I've learned too. Like whenever I heard like research, you always think like an actual medicine or a procedure type of thing. And we're learning more like it could be more than that, like beyond that even. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So what are your expectations after we finish this project? Do you think you will be continuing any further things that we develop? Um, and how will you plan to share your knowledge that you've gained?
So right now we don't have like the topic solidified, but we are leading towards mental health and CHD. I think that's just kind of a topic that everyone seemed to be interested in, so we may take that. But in general, like whatever the final outcome is, I think that it'll be a really good project for not just us, but to whoever's hands it gets it in. And I think my expectation is just for the knowledge and awareness of CHD to increase and that more doctors and parents alike would have resources in their hands, whether facilitated by this project. And in general, I think like I do want to be involved in whatever future work that y'all may do because this is very needed. And my perspective from a patient has just been really nice to come from that point of view, but also learn so much about other conditions and just the wide spectrum of CHD and how it can be, and learn more about doctors' views and everything. So I definitely want to participate in CHD research in the future as well.
Okay, me too. Um, why do you believe the research that we are exploring and hoping to continue, we develop something, why do you think that it is important?
It's important because CHD babies are living and we're adults now. And now there's more adults with CHD than children and babies with CHD. And I mean, my parents were told if I was born in India, I'd be dead. That's what they were told. And they're like, you good thing you were born in America, right? And I was like, literally hearing that later on, and I was like, oh, that's harsh. But
Yeah.
also people don't know about this, and this is really needed because people just need to know about CHD, and we're living into adulthood, so there's just different things that come with all the surgeries or procedures you went through as a child. Now that you're alive and they've kept you alive, like now how can we increase your quality of life
Right.
rather than just the quantity? How can we make sure you're having, with the time that you have, you're enjoying it, you're having a good life? And I think that's why it's so important to address all of these different factors that we haven't looked at before.
I think like that was what we were talking about last night. Like I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what we hit on. And I thought it was really cool that like everything everybody said, I was like, that's me, or like some point in my life, like that's what I went through. And when we were talking about how like you didn't even realize, but your parents kind of projected it on you. Like I was very sheltered growing up and I didn't get to do a lot of things that I wanted to do or everybody else could do because what might happen to you, like they always thought I was, I mean, I was typically smaller than everybody. like body size. So, and I'm sure that that was related to my condition, but they thought I was like very weak and frail, and I could have probably done everything that I wanted to do, but I wasn't allowed to, like, so then we have that we're like carrying forward and dealing with. So I think, like you said, like we're people too, and we want to do everything that everybody else does. And so we need that research to like give us that better quality of life and allow us to do things that everybody else does, you know, even though we are
Like,
different. So,
exactly.
has your view of CHD changed? Like how you view it since you've started this project?
So I mean, I've shared this before, but before 2019, before I was 18, I knew nothing about my condition. I knew that something was wrong with the heart. It's fixed now. I'm good. That's kind of how it was. I went once a year to the doctor, but like whatever. That's kind of how I regarded it as. But then I I met other people with CHD,
Uh-huh.
and I just like it just opened a gateway to this community that I didn't know existed, and I wanted to be involved as much as I can. And since joining this project, not only has my knowledge of my own CHD gone up, my knowledge of other CHDs, and just like I said before, the whole spectrum of CHDs. I'm single ventricle, but then there's people with CHDs who aren't, and there's people who've been diagnosed like not when they're a baby, but like when they're 30 or whatever. And I was like, I didn't even know that was possible. I just thought you were born blue and that's how it worked. Because that's how it worked for me. And I'm getting so involved with CHD organizations as a whole, whether it's through walks or advocacy or to sharing my own story, which I thought I'd never do because I just did not want to talk about it. It just opened a gateway to so much, and this project has really just amplified all of that and just my passion for CHD. It just makes me want to get more and more involved in anything CHD related.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Let's see. So where do you think our future is going as far as research?
So there is definitely a huge push for CHD research in a lot of organizations right now. So that's great. And I think right now, I think a big focus is mental health, like we talked about before, just in general, even outside CHD, mental health is just like a big topic now. And I think within CHD, how we can utilize that topic and make it more towards just the CHD community for different conditions. I know anxiety was talked about, PTSD was talked about, depression, like the main stuff that we deal with. And so I think the future of CHD is just a lot of care and options for mental health in terms of CHD, as well as knowledge for parents and community for parents and patients to, alleviate those feelings of loneliness, to, hopefully get rid of some of potential risks for depression later on. And I just think like getting resources into parents' hands. Like my parents had no idea what was going on. So just, letting them know like it's okay. I recently received a book from I think the Children's Heart Foundation, and it's like a book with every condition, every surgery, every procedure listed on it. And they just gave it to me. And I was like, this is amazing. Because for the first time I actually read about pulmonary atresia, bicuspid aortic valve, and all these things that I had. And it was really useful. My dad was like, I wish I had that. So I think the future of CHD is just getting resources into parents' hands, mental health resources, and also taking away the stigma like, oh, broken heart, can't do anything, all of that nonsense. Like, you don't need to use that terminology. Like, you have a special heart, like, using more positive terminology in front of kids, I think is another great pathway. And also knowledge for doctors. Of course, I can't go to a regular cardiologist because they have no idea what they're dealing with.
Right.
So I have to drive 2 hours to Dallas for care from Waco. So definitely, increasing knowledge and giving resources to doctors as well, and treating the whole person, not just fixing them and moving on. Like, okay, there's we what are the long-term implications of this, and really following the patient after just the initial quote unquote fixing.
Right. And then, I mean, you're compared to me, relatively, you're much younger than I am. And so a lot of things I didn't think about when I was like at your age, but now that I'm getting up there in my years, and so then you start thinking about like, how does it affect other like organs in your body and other systems in your body, because now, in my 20s and my whole life, really, I never really had to do medications, and now I do. And so like, what does that do to my other systems, and
Mhm.
the longevity of those organs and so forth. So it doesn't end, like
Mhm.
it keeps going. And so we need to address that as we're aging. Like that's a whole nother like side of it that, like you said,
Mhm.
like it was always about keeping you alive and all that pediatric side of it, but there's a point where that ends, and we have to keep going, like push for it to still get researched in that area, because we don't know. We're like the first ones, the old people, we're the first ones, like what happens to us. Um, so well, how has this project given you hope for the future of CHD as compared to what kind of hope you had before this project?
So before this project, I will say I did have hope that, we are going in a good direction, but I didn't know what was being done out there. I saw like nonprofit organizations having walks and things like that, but just in terms of like actual research, I didn't know what was happening. I knew stuff was happening, I didn't know what. So now I definitely have much more hope that we are going in a greatly positive direction. Like, I think, especially with the resources we have today, like, we have just seen an exponential growth in resources and just platforms and everything. So I am very hopeful for the future. And this project really shows that people do care, and patients and physicians alike want to be involved and want to see CHD patients having the better quality of life, like you mentioned before. So that does bring me hope that there are people who care. There is a community out there, and even physicians who maybe they don't know anyone with CHD besides their own patients. Like even they, really care about this group of people who are and are dedicating their time for this project. So that's really nice.
So I know you're at school at Baylor, so
Mhm.
Waco, and then it takes you like 2 hours to get to see
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
But where did you grow up? Like the area you grew up in, how did you like get help when you were little?
So I kind of moved around. I was born in Austin at Brackenridge Hospital, which no longer exists. And I think I had to be like, I don't know, I think my first car was an ambulance or something because they didn't know how to deal with what I was born with. So I got transported to another hospital I don't know the name of, but we moved to Houston, lived in medical center right near Texas Children's Hospital, where I had my final two like major open heart surgeries, and I had some liver issues and other issues too. So like all that got fixed there in that hospital. And so I kind of grew up in Houston until 2009. After the recession, we moved to California, and I lived in the Bay Area and had my care at Stanford Children's Hospital, which was, I want to say, 45-minute drive, maybe an hour with traffic. It depends. Traffic got heavier as the years progressed. So that was my care. And that's most of my memories at Stanford Children's because I was older there. And now I'm in Waco. So my care is in Dallas right now. So at UT Southwestern. So, but most of my care was at Texas Children's, where all the surgeries and everything happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think like in the very beginning when I was born, it was in a hospital in Austin, which exists or doesn't exist anymore. I'm not sure. And then Stanford Children's was another.
So they didn't know anything until you were born? Like,
So apparently they could have caught it on the echo, but the nurse made a mistake. Like there was something showing up, but she just like forgot or didn't say anything or just thought it was normal. I don't know exactly. My dad just told me like the nurse made a mistake. I'm not sure exactly what mistake. So when I was born, I just turned blue. Like I didn't really breathe and I didn't pass the what is it called? The APGAR test, I think. And I was just blue. And they knew immediately that something was wrong. I think I was diagnosed via a cath, I want to say. Um, and basically all within like the same week, and had my first open heart, and then several catheterizations and issues and complications. And I had the 3-step, Fontan surgery because I had single ventricle. defect, and that's just how that went down. I think my last surgery was when I was 5, I think. Yeah.
So quick question, because it made me wonder, like, do you think your parents moved for that reason? Like because of all the
So
people in Houston, or was it something else?
there was a lot of reasons we moved to Houston. Mostly it was my dad's job because he just got another job in Houston that was better than Austin. And there was like a mini recession when we moved for like computer science jobs, and that's the field he was in. So that was one reason. And also, Texas Children's Hospital was just, I think, another reason we wanted to be closer to the hospital.
Right.
That's we lived smack downtown medical center in Houston, even though we didn't really like it there. We don't really like downtown, but because he was near Texas Children's, we lived there. Like I said, the Brackenridge Hospital no longer exists. I'm not entirely sure like what happened with that first hospital, but I think we just wanted to go to a more established place, and also my dad's job is another reason.
I was just curious because that's part, like, how, I guess, convenient or close you are to care is what really like prompted this whole thing for me, because I'm down in Corpus Christi and there's nobody here, like,
Mhm.
for adults. There's plenty for children because we have a children's hospital. So we get all the children from the valley, and we have pediatric cardiologists and surgeons, and they, like you said, fix them, and then they go back to the valley and they live their life. But here,
Mhm.
once you're like older, there's nobody like for you. So, and so most of my adult life, I was here, and I actually fell out of care. I didn't have anybody until I had like other issues happen and other medical emergency things, and I had to have like a cardiac consult on it. And so they arranged, and actually, that's how I met Dr. Lynn. It was like through another doctor that they were like, oh, through Methodist, we have someone that can help you. And so now I have to drive from Corpus Christi all the way to Houston. Never
Yeah.
I knew anything for my heart because nobody here, like you said, no, I actually wound up in the ER here, and they didn't have any idea what they were looking at. Um, I even told the girl like, good luck. And she's like, oh no, I got it. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And, and then they came back like, no, we don't know what we're looking at. So, but that's what prompted. And that's why I was curious, like, did they
Mhm.
move intentionally to get you closer to, you know, a location where you can get help?
Yeah, there's just a lot of factors that came into play, but I actually was always in pediatric care. Even in Stanford, when I turned 18, I was in pediatric care. But then my doctor retired, and like only because he retired, I think we were like, okay, let's look at this adult care. This was around the time I also went to single ventricle patient day as well. So there's that. But when it came for college, we definitely wanted adult care, and they had that at UT Southwestern. So I got lucky in that. But if they didn't, I probably would be seen by a pediatric doctor because it's either that or Austin. No, Austin didn't really have anything. It was either Dallas or Houston, and Dallas is closer. So
Mhm. I just think that that's something that we think about that a lot of people don't realize, that, adults that are currently in care and are active with their care have to consider that, like, where do you live and how close
mm,
is your closest center? And um, if you want to move, then you're looking to see where those other locations might be. Um,
yeah,
and, not everybody typically has to think about those things, but we do.
yeah,
So that's why, to me, the research is important, because we need to expand like the knowledge, like you said, like just general care doctors, ERs and all of that, like, need some experience and knowledge with people like us, because we don't all live in the nearest local center. Some of us are rural, far away in rural towns, and um, so we need to expand as far as we can. And I mean, it's no secret, I'm a teacher, so I have a lot of kids, and they tell me that they want to be doctors and so forth. So I'm always telling them, you need to be an adult cardiologist that specializes in congenital heart. I'm always trying to recruit the kids like to go do that, because we need people like you. So that's my like side of it, where I think we need to expand, and why I mean, as we've done this project, I've learned a lot more and seen a lot more, and like now thinking like, oh yeah, that too, like the discussion we had last
yeah.
night. So that opened the door to a lot of other things. But my primary focus was that. So the project has helped like expand my view on everything and realize like it was a much bigger thing than I had like anticipated it being. But
Yeah.
so what other, did we not like talk about anything in particular that you wanted to mention or other
Um,
things that you
I
might
think I just agree with what you're saying that we need more ACHD cardiologists because like even in a small town like Waco, there's two ginormous, and I mean huge hospitals, Baylor Scott and White and Ascension Providence. I was picking up my badge at Ascension because I'm shadowing an OT there. And I went in and it was ginormous. And they had like a cardiology department, like you could fit Baylor in it. That's how big the cardiology department was. But when I was searching for, adult CHD care, like it didn't pop up. Ascension didn't pop up. Baylor Scott and White didn't pop up. Like Dallas popped up and Houston popped up and Austin did, but like the Austin one didn't work out because that one was like very new, or I don't know. They just still didn't really know anything about it. So it was really Dallas or Houston. And I was really just surprised because there's two giant hospitals and
right.
not one ACHD doctor in like either of them. So we definitely need more people to specialize in it. And even if they don't, like knowledge to the cardiologists are already there. Like, hey, if you see these type of patients, like you can take them on, but if you are comfortable, you can refer to them to these
Right.
people. Is that like even if you're referring them to people in Dallas or Houston, it's like at least they have the resource to be like, okay, that's a CHD patient, or that's single ventricle, or that's this specific condition, or whatever. I can refer this person to this doctor because I'm not sure what to do, rather than being like, oh, I don't know, that's weird. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Rather than just like sending them on their way, you know?
That's kind of what happened to me here because like you said, I saw my pediatric cardiologist until they basically said we couldn't see you anymore. But like I saw them into my 20s and kind of like I think I had a year or two away from them. But then when we wanted to start a family, I went back because I knew better. Like I need to like make sure I'm okay and this is an okay thing to do. And I have their support. So they followed me through like my pregnancies. And then I did like follow-ups with them. My kids were like toddlers at this time. And that's when they were finally like, okay, we need to find you somebody, like, because we're the children's hospital and you're, like 25, 26, So, and then they're like, but they never told me where. They're just like, we just need to find you somebody. And then like that was it. Like conversation ended there because like you said, they don't know like where to refer you to. And it
Yeah,
just, and so then I just kind of like stopped getting cared for, and
yeah,
emergency is what brought me to it, so I think you're right. Like there are few and far between. We definitely need more
for
people.
sure.
Hmm.
Look for prevention. It shouldn't take an emergency for you to get into care.
Yeah. So well, now I know better, and so then that leaves the question like, so all those years, because I was in my early 40s, so almost close to 2 decades of like
Mhm.
nothing, and I felt fine and I did all right, but then like what damage did I really do? It makes me wonder. So what if I had care? How much stronger could my heart be right now? But I can't go back into the past. So well, other thoughts or points?
I am very grateful for this project and any project like this. I'm grateful for patients that are wanting to get involved, and I just love like how so many age ranges are involved in this project, like to get like different perspectives from different stages of life and just be like, okay, we're all dealing with the same thing. Let's see how we can move forward from here because the past is in the past and we just want to make sure the future is better. So I'm really thankful for this project and just my involvement in this. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be here.